Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln wheat penny coin that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Coin number 1. Today we are going to talk about a small copper coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but for collectors it holds a story so powerful that it can completely change how you see pocket change forever. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1944, the famous wheat penny. A coin born during the final, intense year of World War II, when history, metal shortages, human error, and chance all came together to create one of the most talked about pennies in American numismatics. Imagine the world in 1944. The war was consuming enormous resources. Copper was critical for ammunition and military equipment. Just 1 year earlier, the U.S. Mint had been forced to strike pennies on steel because copper was desperately needed. By 1944, copper returned, but not in the way many people realize. These pennies were struck using recycled shell casings from the battlefield. That means every genuine 1944 wheat penny literally carries traces of history from a global conflict. This fact alone already makes the coin special, emotional, and deeply collectible. The design is instantly recognizable. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's strong and calm portrait reminds us of unity and endurance. On the back, 2 wheat ears frame the words 1 cent, symbolizing prosperity and growth. This was the final era of the wheat reverse design, which ended just a few years later. For collectors, that alone adds charm and nostalgia. Now here is where things get truly exciting. While millions of 1944 wheat pennies were produced, only a tiny fraction possessed the characteristics that turn them from common coins into rare treasures. Condition is everything. A heavily worn coin tells a story, but a sharply detailed example with original luster is something collectors dream about. Pennies that survived decades without heavy circulation are far scarcer than most people think. Even more fascinating are the errors and varieties. During wartime minting, speed was more important than perfection. Dies were reused, planchets were mixed, and mistakes slipped through. Some 1944 wheat pennies show doubled details, or letters or numbers appear slightly duplicated due to die errors. Others were struck off-center, creating a dramatic and visually striking look. These mistakes were never meant to leave the mint, yet a few escaped and now command serious attention. One of the most legendary reasons this coin can be extremely valuable lies in metal composition errors. A very small number of 1944 pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. These steel examples are among the most famous error coins in U.S. history. Lightweight, magnetic, and completely unexpected, they are considered crown jewels by collectors. Finding one would be like winning the lottery for coin lovers. Collectors also closely examine mint marks. Coins from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each have their own following. Subtle differences in strike quality and survival rates make certain mint versions harder to find in top condition. Serious collectors study these details carefully, often spending years searching for the perfect example. What truly keeps people watching, searching, and hoping is the idea that this coin could still be out there. In old jars, inherited collections, forgotten boxes, or even mixed in everyday change. That possibility fuels excitement. Every wheat penny becomes a question mark. Is this just another old cent, or is it something special? For collectors, the 1944 wheat penny is not just about money. It represents history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. It connects the modern world to a time of sacrifice and resilience. Holding one is like holding a small piece of America's past. Now, let's talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, an average circulated 1944 wheat penny is worth only a small amount. However, a high-grade example with strong detail and original shine can be worth many dollars. Coins with clear and dramatic errors can reach into the hundreds. And the extremely rare steel version has sold at auction for amounts reaching into the tens of thousands of dollars, with the finest known examples bringing prices that collectors describe as life-changing. Coin number 2. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1953 with the S mint mark, the San Francisco wheat penny. At first glance it looks simple, even ordinary, but once you understand its background, its minting challenges, and the rare details hidden in plain sight, this coin becomes something far more exciting. The year 1953 was a turning point era in American history. The country was moving forward after World War II, industries were growing, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins in huge numbers to keep up with everyday commerce. The San Francisco Mint played an important role during this time, striking coins that would travel across the western states and beyond. Compared to Philadelphia, San Francisco pennies often show different strike characteristics, and this is where collectors begin to pay close attention. The design is classic and beloved. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front reflects strength and stability, while the wheat ears on the back symbolize growth and tradition. This wheat design was nearing the end of its long run, which makes every 1953 wheat penny part of a fading chapter in American coinage. Many collectors focus on this era because it represents the final years of the wheat cent before the design changed forever, and out here is where the 1953's wheat penny becomes truly interesting. While millions were produced, far fewer survived in high-quality condition. Coins from San Francisco during this period were often struck with slightly weaker details, especially on Lincoln's hair and the wheat lines on the reverse. Because of this, sharply struck examples are much scarcer than most people expect. Finding one with strong detail and original luster is a challenge that excites collectors. Errors are another major reason this coin can be special. During high-speed production, mistakes happened. Some 1953's pennies show doubled features, where the date or lettering appears slightly shadowed due to die doubling. Others display repunched mint marks, where the S mint mark was stamped more than once, leaving subtle but collectible variations. These small differences may look insignificant to the untrained eye, but to a collector they can dramatically change a coin's desirability. There are also off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks that appear on some examples. These errors occurred when planchets were misaligned or dies were damaged but still used. Each error tells a story of the minting process and adds personality to the coin. Collectors love these imperfections because they are accidental, unpredictable, and impossible to recreate. Condition remains one of the most important factors. A worn 1953's penny is common, but a coin with sharp wheat lines, clean fields, and minimal marks becomes something special. Red or red-brown examples that retain their original color over decades are especially difficult to find. These coins were meant to circulate, not to be preserved, which makes survival in top condition remarkable. What keeps collectors watching videos like this and searching their collections is the possibility. The idea that a valuable coin could already be sitting in a drawer, inherited from a relative, or saved decades ago without realizing its future importance. That sense of discovery is what makes coin collecting addictive and rewarding. The 1953's wheat penny represents more than just copper and zinc. It represents history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of looking closer. It teaches collectors that rarity is not always about low mintage, but about survival, detail, and small differences that only careful eyes notice. Now let's talk about value, because this is what everyone waits for. In today's real market, a circulated 1953's wheat penny is usually worth a modest amount. However, examples in high mint state condition can be worth many dollars. Coins with strong strikes, original red color, or notable errors can reach into the hundreds. Exceptional error coins and top-grade certified examples have achieved auction results described in words as ranging from several $100s to a few $1,000s, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Coin number 3. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1957 with the D mint mark, the Denver wheat penny. A coin that looks common at first glance, but when examined closely, reveals why collectors pay serious attention to it. The year 1957 sits in a fascinating moment of American history. The nation was thriving, industries were expanding, and everyday life depended heavily on small change. The Denver Mint was operating at full speed, producing enormous quantities of pennies to meet demand. Speed, however, often came at the cost of perfection. and this is exactly where the story of the 1957 D-Wheat penny becomes exciting. The design itself carries a timeless charm. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front represents leadership and unity, while the reverse wheat ears remind us of tradition and stability. This design had already been in use for decades, and by 1957 it was nearing the end of its historic run. Collectors today see this period as the final chapter of a beloved design, which adds emotional and historical value to every surviving example. Although the mintage numbers were high, true rarity is not always about how many coins were made. It is about how many survived in exceptional condition. Most 1957 D pennies were heavily circulated, tossed into cash registers, pockets, and jars. As a result, coins with crisp details, clean surfaces, and original color are far more difficult to find than people realize. When collectors see one with strong wheat lines and sharp lettering, they immediately take notice. Errors are another reason this coin holds special interest. During rapid production, dies wore down quickly and were often reused beyond their ideal lifespan. This led to visible die cracks, cuts, and worn details that collectors now prize as evidence of the minting process. Some 1957 D-Wheat pennies show doubled features in the date or lettering, subtle but collectible variations that reward careful inspection. Repunched mint marks are also known on Denver coins of this era. These occurred when the D-mint mark was punched more than once into the die, creating small shifts or outlines that can still be seen under magnification. To the untrained eye, these differences might seem insignificant, but to experienced collectors they add uniqueness and desirability. There are also off-center strikes and clipped planchets that escaped quality control. These dramatic errors instantly stand out and are highly sought after because no two are exactly alike. Each one tells a story of a moment when machinery, metal, and human oversight combined in an unexpected way. Condition and color play a major role as well. Many 1957 D pennies have turned dark brown over time, but a small number retained their original red or red-brown luster. These coins were usually saved early or simply lucky enough to avoid harsh circulation. Today, they represent the top tier of collectability for this date and mint. What makes this coin truly captivating is the idea that it could still be out there, sitting unnoticed in old collections, inherited boxes, or forgotten rolls. Every wheat penny becomes an opportunity, every close look a chance to discover something special. That sense of possibility is what keeps collectors watching, learning, and searching. The 1957 D-Wheat penny is more than just spare change. It is a reminder that value often hides in details, and history often lives in the smallest objects. For coin lovers, it teaches patience, curiosity, and the joy of looking closer. And now, let's talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, a circulated 1957 D-Wheat penny is worth only a small amount. However, high-grade examples with sharp strikes and original color are worth many dollars. Coins with notable mint errors can reach into the hundreds. Exceptional pieces, especially those certified in top condition or with dramatic errors, have achieved auction prices described in words as ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Coin number 4. We are stepping back into a powerful moment in American history through a small copper coin that many people still overlook. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1946, the classic wheat penny that marked a new beginning after one of the most difficult periods the world had ever seen. This coin was born just after World War II ended, when the nation was healing, rebuilding, and moving forward with hope. That alone gives the 1946 wheat penny a special place in the hearts of collectors. When this coin was struck, America had just emerged from wartime production. Factories were shifting back to civilian needs, soldiers were returning home, and everyday life was slowly becoming normal again. The U.S. Mint returned to more stable metal supplies after years of wartime shortages. That transition period makes 1946 an important and symbolic year in U.S. coinage history. The design is instantly familiar and deeply loved. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front represents strength, unity, and endurance. On the reverse, the wheat ears frame the denomination, symbolizing growth and prosperity. This weak design had already become iconic by the mid-1940s, and coins from this era are often collected not just for value, but for the story they tell. Although large numbers of 1946 wheat pennies were produced, true rarity comes from condition and detail. Most of these coins entered heavy circulation immediately. They passed through hands during a time when pennies were used every day. As a result, many surviving examples are worn smooth. Coins that still show sharp details in Lincoln's hair, clear lettering, and strong wheat lines are much harder to find than people expect. Collectors pay close attention to mint marks on this date. Coins were struck at multiple mints, and each has its own characteristics. Differences in strike quality and survival rates mean that some versions are far scarcer in high-grade condition. A well-struck example with clean surfaces can stand out immediately to an experienced eye. Errors play a major role in making certain 1946 wheat pennies truly special. During this period, minting equipment was still adjusting after years of intense wartime use. Dies were sometimes worn, reused, or damaged, leading to visible die cracks, cuts, and weak strikes. Some coins show doubling in the date or lettering, where parts of the design appear slightly shadowed due to die misalignment. These subtle details can dramatically increase collector interest. Off-center strikes and clipped planchets also exist for this year. These errors occurred when the blank coin was not properly positioned or when metal strips were cut imperfectly. Each error is unique, impossible to duplicate, and tells a story about the minting process itself. Collectors love these coins because they are accidental pieces of history. Color is another important factor. Over time, most 1946 wheat pennies turned brown. However, a small number retained their original red or red-brown luster. These coins are especially desirable because copper naturally darkens with age, and preserving original color over decades is rare. Finding one in brilliant condition feels like discovering a time capsule. What keeps collectors engaged is the idea that these coins are still out there. In old jars, inherited collections, forgotten albums, or boxes tucked away for generations. Every wheat penny invites a closer look. Every detail matters. That sense of discovery is what makes coin collecting so exciting and rewarding. The 1946 wheat penny is more than spare change. It is a symbol of recovery, craftsmanship, and the quiet importance of small objects in telling big stories. For coin lovers, it teaches patience, curiosity, and respect for history. Now let's talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, a circulated 1946 wheat penny is worth a modest amount. High-grade examples with strong detail and original color are worth many dollars. Coins with clear mint errors can reach into the hundreds. Exceptional pieces in top condition or with dramatic errors have achieved auction results described in words as ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand. Coin number 5. We are going to uncover the story of a humble copper coin that carries the weight of a nation preparing for war. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1942 with the D mint mark, the Denver wheat penny. At first glance, it may look like just another old penny, but once you understand the moment in history when it was created, the challenges inside the mint, and the rare details collectors search for, this coin becomes something truly fascinating. The year 1942 was a dramatic turning point. The United States had just entered World War II, and the entire country was shifting into wartime mode. Factories were retooled, materials were rationed, and the U.S. Mint faced enormous pressure to keep producing coins while conserving vital metals. Copper was suddenly in high demand for military use, and this pressure would soon lead to major changes in penny production. That makes 1942 one of the last full copper wheat pennies before the famous steel cents of 1943. The Denver Mint played a crucial role during this time. Working at high speed, it produced millions of pennies to support everyday commerce while the nation mobilized for war. With such intense production, perfection was not always possible. This environment created subtle variations, weak strikes, and mint errors that collectors today carefully study and prize. The design is classic and powerful. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front symbolizes leadership during crisis, while the wheat ears on the reverse represent strength. stability, and the agricultural backbone of the nation. Knowing this coin was struck as America stepped onto the world stage in a global conflict gives it emotional depth that modern coins simply cannot replicate. Although many 1942 wheat pennies were made, most were heavily circulated. Pennies were used daily for food, transport, and necessities. As a result, coins with strong details are much scarcer today. Collectors look closely at Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the date, and the clarity of the wheat lines. A well-struck example immediately stands out. Errors are one of the biggest reasons this coin can become rare and expensive. Some 1942 pennies show doubled features, especially in the date or lettering, caused by die misalignment. Others display die cracks and cuds, visible signs of worn or damaged dies that were kept in service due to wartime demand. These flaws transform an ordinary penny into a unique collectible. Off-center strikes and clipped planchets are also known for this year. These happened when blank coins were improperly positioned or when metal strips were cut imperfectly. Each error is different, making every example a one-of-a-kind piece of minting history. Collectors value these coins not just for rarity, but for the story behind the mistake. Color and preservation matter greatly. Most 1942 wheat pennies have turned dark brown over time. However, a small number retain their original red or red-brown color. These coins are especially desirable because copper naturally tones with age. Finding one that still shines is like opening a window into the past. What makes this coin so exciting for collectors is the possibility that it is still out there. In old coffee cans, family collections, or forgotten rolls saved decades ago. Every wheat penny becomes an opportunity. Every close inspection feels like a treasure hunt. That feeling keeps collectors watching, learning, and searching. In the 1942 wheat penny is more than spare change. It is a symbol of a nation on the brink of transformation, captured in copper. It teaches collectors that history often hides in the smallest objects, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. Now let's talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, a circulated 1942 wheat penny is generally worth a small amount. High-grade examples with sharp details and original color are worth many dollars. Coins with notable mint errors can reach into the hundreds. Exceptional pieces, especially those in top condition or with dramatic errors, have achieved auction prices described in words as ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Coin number 6. We are going to slow things down and look closely at a coin that many people have already seen, touched, and even ignored, without ever realizing what it truly represents. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1953, the classic wheat penny. A coin born in a calm-looking year on the surface, yet filled with quiet details, hidden varieties, and collector secrets that can completely change how valuable it becomes. The year 1953 sits in the heart of post-war America. The nation was rebuilding, families were growing, and daily commerce relied heavily on small change. Pennies were everywhere, used constantly, and rarely saved. Because of this, most 1953 wheat pennies lived hard lives in circulation. That heavy use is exactly what makes well-preserved examples so interesting today. The design is timeless. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front is familiar to everyone, but collectors study it carefully. The strength of the strike in Lincoln's hair, the clarity of his profile, and the sharpness of the lettering all matter. On the reverse, the two wheat ears symbolize growth and tradition, a design that had already been in use for decades and was nearing the end of its historic run. Every 1953 wheat penny is part of that final chapter. What many people do not realize is that 1953 wheat pennies were struck at different mints, and each mint left behind its own personality. Differences in pressure, die quality, and metal flow created subtle variations that collectors hunt for today. Some coins show weak strikes, while others appear unusually sharp. Those strong strikes are much harder to find because they were never common to begin with. Errors are where this coin becomes truly exciting. During high-speed production, mistakes happened. Some 1953 wheat pennies show doubled details, where parts of the date or lettering appear slightly shifted or shadowed. These doubled features are the result of die issues and are highly collectible when clearly visible. Other coins display die cracks, long raised lines caused by damaged dies that continued to be used. Each crack is unique, turning a normal coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. Repunched mint marks exist for this year as well. Before mint marks were added directly into the die, they were punched by hand. Sometimes they were punched more than once, leaving faint outlines or extra shapes that collectors can still spot with magnification. These small details are easy to miss, but once you see one, you never forget it. There are also off-center strikes and clipped planchets from 1953. These dramatic errors happened when the blank coin was not aligned properly or when the metal strip was cut imperfectly. These coins instantly stand out and are prized because no two look the same. Each one captures a moment where the minting process briefly went wrong. Color plays a huge role in value. Most 1953 wheat pennies are brown today, darkened by decades of oxidation. A smaller number survived as red-brown, and an even smaller number retained bright red color. Copper naturally changes over time, so finding a coin that still looks close to how it did the day it left the mint is extremely rare and exciting for collectors. What truly keeps collectors watching videos like this and searching their coins is the possibility. The idea that a valuable 1953 wheat penny could still be sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old family collection. These coins were not meant to be saved, which makes every high-quality survivor feel special. The 1953 wheat penny teaches collectors an important lesson. Rarity is not always about age alone. It is about condition, detail, mistakes, and survival. It rewards patience and careful observation. Every wheat penny deserves a second look, because history often hides in the smallest places. Now let's talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, a circulated 1953 wheat penny is usually worth a modest amount. Examples in high mint state condition can be worth many dollars. Coins with strong doubling, repunched mint marks, or dramatic mint errors can reach into the hundreds. Exceptional certified examples and rare error pieces have achieved auction prices described in words as ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand. Coin number 7. We are going to talk about a penny that marks the end of an era, a small copper coin that quietly closed one of the most beloved chapters in American coin history. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1 cent from 1958, the final regular issue wheat penny ever produced. That single fact alone makes this coin incredibly special for collectors and coin lovers around the world. By 1958, America was changing fast. Highways were expanding, families were growing, and the country was stepping confidently into the modern age. Inside the U.S. Mint, change was also coming. Plans were already in place to replace the classic wheat design with a new reverse honoring the Lincoln Memorial. This meant that every 1958 wheat penny was struck knowing it would be the last of its kind. There would be no more wheat ears after this year, making this coin a true farewell to a long tradition that began in 1909. The design feels familiar yet emotional. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front had been part of American life for generations. On the reverse, the two wheat ears represent prosperity, stability, and tradition. For collectors, holding a 1958 wheat penny feels like holding the final page of a long and meaningful story. Although many millions were minted, most of these coins entered circulation immediately. Pennies were used daily and rarely saved. As a result, the majority of surviving examples are heavily worn. Coins with sharp details, clean fields, and strong wheat lines are much harder to find than most people expect. Collectors carefully examine Lincoln's hair, the sharpness of the date, and the clarity of the lettering to judge quality. Errors are one of the most exciting reasons the 1958 wheat penny can become rare and expensive. During high-speed production at the end of the wheat cent era, dies were often pushed to their limits. Some coins show doubled details, where parts of the lettering or date appear slightly shadowed due to die issues. These doubled features instantly increase collector interest when clearly visible. Die cracks and cuts are also found on some examples. These appear as raised lines or blobs caused by damaged dies that continue to be used. Each crack pattern is unique, making these coins one-of-a-kind pieces of mint history. Collectors love these flaws because they reveal what was happening inside the mint at the exact moment the coin was struck. Off-center strikes and clipped planchets are another category collectors watch for. These dramatic errors happened when the blank coin was not positioned correctly or when the metal strip was cut imperfectly. These coins stand out immediately and are highly collectible because no two errors look exactly the same. Color is extremely important for this date. Most 1958 wheat pennies are brown today, darkened by decades of natural aging. Red-brown examples are scarcer, and fully red examples are especially rare. Copper naturally reacts with air over time, so a penny that still shows bright original color is a remarkable survivor. These coins are often the highlights of advanced collections. What truly excites collectors is knowing this is the final wheat penny. Many people save one just for that reason alone. It represents the end of a design that lasted nearly 50 years. That emotional connection adds to its appeal and long-term demand. There is also the thrill of possibility. These coins are still found in old collections, jars, and inherited boxes. Every wheat penny becomes worth a closer look, especially when it carries the final date of the series. That sense of discovery is what keeps collectors watching, searching, and learning. The 1958 wheat penny is more than spare change. It is a symbol of transition, history, and craftsmanship. It reminds us that even the smallest objects can mark the end of an era and hold stories worth listening to. And now let's talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, a circulated 1958 wheat penny is worth a small amount. High-grade examples with sharp strikes and original color are worth many dollars. Coins with strong doubling or dramatic mint errors can reach into the hundreds. Exceptional certified pieces and rare error examples have achieved auction prices described in words as ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand.